Our audience is eagerly awaiting this cast. It's time to break down Ninja Kamui. We were talking about adult animation in America and how this industry is firing on all cylinders, and I'd say the crown jewel of that would be Ninja Kamui,
Oh,
right?
oh, for sure. I mean, they really didn't hold back at all. Uh, yeah, I
Ye-
don't know. That had like, judging from like the first episode or first two episodes, like you were like, wow, this is gonna be pretty good. I mean, it's not gonna have like a crazy story or anything, but you're like, okay, they really did a lot for the animation of these fights.
mhm.
It looks cool. I mean, the world's cool. And then like every passing episode, you just lost me more and more. But sunk cost. I wasn't gonna stop. I knew it was only like 13 episodes, so I was gonna keep it pushing. But man, it was pretty disappointing, honestly.
Dude, you said it perfectly. Each episode got worse and worse. Like each episode, I kept losing more and more faith in the series, and it sucks because peppered throughout the series, there are actually moments of potential, in my opinion. Like I actually think that if you take this story and put like another writing team behind it and like the same level of animation, that this could be a pretty solid series. I think at its best, it's cyberpunk edge runners, and at its worst, it's I don't know, Madam Web. But
That's pretty bad.
no, the lows are low. The lows are
Yeah,
low, and the highs aren't even that high. But the first episode was a great episode.
dude,
Like that was a
sick. It was
great
so
pilot.
cool, so
Yeah,
cool.
they introduce the character. You get this whole bait and switch where you find out that he has a secret life. He loses his whole family, and the animation was so fire.
So good.
Um, and you know what? I will say consistently, the animation does deliver. I don't think that there's a fight scene that looks bad in the show. It's
The
just the story is so god awful in between.
I don't know. I mean, the introduction of the mechs was like what
They
killed
lost
it
you
for me.
there.
Yeah, and like on top of like the mechs were 3D animated, which like it seemed like there was no was there a comic series before this, or was it just kind of
Not to my knowledge. I mean, as far
okay?
as I know, this is
Well,
just an original property.
in that case, it really seems like they kind of had the mechs come in to like. I mean, this might not be the case, but it seems like oh, this is an easy way for us to cut costs. Like they're in mechs, and when they're in mechs, we can 3D animate them. And I
Yeah, I
was,
mean that's probably the case.
and they didn't look great when they were 3D animated. Like a lot of shows get away with like adding, sliding in some 3D animation into like what they're doing to make it look better. Like Demon Slayer and stuff like that. Like that, they use a lot of 3D animation, but it's blended so well you wouldn't really notice. And
Hmm.
that's also why it looks so good all the time.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they didn't have a crazy budget to give him that, but yeah, I mean, after they started introducing the mechs, they stopped fighting. Like a lot of their like, what were they called? Like the arts. Like they,
Secret Arts.
yeah, like they didn't really use them that much. Like he had a move where he had like fucking four arms and shit. Like you're not doing that in the mech. Like that whole move is just useless.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like who's got the better mech. Like it's kind of dumb.
Well, they do say that it's kind of like the combat suits in
Yeah,
Kaiju number eight. It's like
uh,
all an extension of like your will as a fighter. It's like if you can think it, you can do it type shit.
but like
But on,
his was his was like
you're right. He had a
better
special one.
inherently, and so was like the leader. Like theirs is
That's true.
just known better if you could pilot it. Like and the other ones
Yeah,
were
that's
kind of
true.
just mid.
Yeah, I do think so. I am not as mad at the mech introduction as you are. I don't think that it's better. My favorite fights are the fights that are fist to fist, and
Yeah,
like the
same.
choreography feels very unique. It feels fresh when I'm watching it. It actually feels like, oh, this is doing something I haven't seen as far as fight choreography goes before. Now, when they get into the mechs, I feel like it cuts the stakes in half. Like already, these characters don't have phenomenal character motivations going in,
No,
right? And that being said, like in episode 11, when we're seeing him fight his old best friend or whatever, and when it's fist to
that
fist,
one was great.
emotionally, I was actually very invested. It felt
No,
like
dude,
Naruto and
yes.
Sasuke fist to fist.
When the
But
mechs
then you
blew
take him and
up,
you put him in the mechs. all of a sudden I have no emotional investment anymore. Like it disconnects you from the character, and there's so little character to begin with that you can't afford to put him in a suit and not
Yeah.
see them physically there.
Yeah. No, like the fight with his friend was so good, and I was like, okay, well, if this is good, the final fight, if it's anything like this, it'll be a banger, and it'll kind of not, it'll make up for a lot of the shit in the show, but like no, the last fight was so I couldn't bring myself to care that much.
No, the fight in episode 11 was the peak of the series. Everything after that was a waste of time. I actually think like my usually I think that a show would do so well with an extra couple of episodes to pad it out. Not the case here. This show
No.
needed to be a couple episodes shorter.
Yeah, and it just kind
Um,
of like I didn't care for a lot of the side stories going on, like the FBI guy.
okay, I like the
I
FBI.
like him too, but like I feel like I don't know, they just didn't do enough to make me like care that much. Like he was a cool character, I liked him, but like it didn't feel like he really did all that much at the end of it, aside from like protecting that other nerd that was like hacking everything.
I didn't give a shit about that guy.
No,
That
and
was
that's what I'm
annoying.
saying, and that was like his partner to like
Yeah.
the later half of the show.
Right, right. No, if I were to sum up the series, it's wasted potential because the plot point of the two FBI agents and then this ninja who's on the run from the FBI, but they're working together to get the Ninja
That could be cool,
Association down.
yeah.
Like the bones of that
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
very
yeah.
strong
For
story,
sure, for sure.
especially when you find out that his partner used to be a ninja and his double is
Yeah,
going deep.
yeah, yeah.
Like the twist on paper worked really well, but gosh, do they just punt it? Like they don't do that well. The it feels like the writing for the FBI guy is like, oh my gosh, every 2008 cop dialogue. Like it was like recycled dialogue from like a bad movie I saw when I was a kid. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to like him more. Did you feel emotionally invested when they revealed that the FBI guy had a daughter who passed away, and it's because he was too invested in his job that he wasn't for her when they needed him? Uh, and then his partner later on, who ended up being the double agent for the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ninja group, when she passed away, he started to see gave this dialogue that he saw her as his daughter and
Yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Emotionally, now I wasn't invested up until that point, but when that moment happened, I was actually very emotionally drawn in. And for me, that was the emotional peak of the series. That was like the most I cared at any
Yeah,
point.
yeah. No, I
Did that
mean,
get you? Did
yeah,
you
yeah,
feel that?
yeah. Her dying was actually pretty sad. Um, but yeah, like you said, every other spot, like I didn't couldn't really bring myself to care. Um,
Yeah.
it was
Also,
weird.
talk about black representation in anime, dude. The black guy on that ninja group, that was maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's crazy because the FBI agent I felt was done pretty well, and
Okay,
that
yes, he was. Yeah.
meanwhile that the ninja is like a cartoonish version of like what someone like I don't know.
Dude, I wish I wrote down some of the quotes that they gave this guy. And they were building him up over a few episodes. He's like this funky guy. They literally put like a beat behind him. Like his score is like has a beat and he gets faded up every day. I mean, I kind of like these details, but he just looked so stereotypical to me. And then he wasn't even a cool fight, dude. He was
No,
like
he
one of the
kind of
most forgettable fights.
yeah. He was the one with like no arms, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what? Like yeah, and I mean all the other ninjas were like what? Like one's just like a small old fucking horny
Pervert.
bastard. Yeah, like
Okay, honestly, I had fun with him though. Like,
well,
I didn't.
yeah, like it made me like root for him dying, so like it kind of
Yeah,
added something like, but like all the ninjas as a whole, like they're aside from like the his close friend, were just
yeah.
fucking complete weirdos.
Freaks, man.
Like, where do you find these guys? Like you're literally just like picking up some random crackhead off the side of the street, and you're like I'll teach you to be a ninja, and he's like fucking 3 feet tall, and he's a horny bastard. Like,
No, yeah. That guy actually I think might be like I hated him, don't get me wrong, but you're supposed to. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of how effective they were with this character, he actually like I think it's the best thing the show did was like have this like reveling, disgusting little man who just like the
Yeah.
more you hit him, the more he's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he was fun. Like I actually had a lot of fun with him as an enemy. I don't think there was someone he fought that like. I mean, there was more emotional resonance with his best friend or whatever, but like that was the most fun fight for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think they did his friend that well. Like, it was just
Oh
kind of
no, so flat, bro.
like he was just like all butthurt because they left, and then at the end he's like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe you were right." Like nothing even really that. Like also, I think one part when he initially was in the mech and he was fighting them all, like he saved him, right? Like
Yes.
I didn't understand that. I thought he had swapped sides. He saved him, but he was still wanting to kill him. Was it
So I
like
think
a I wanted to do it myself or like
I mean, I guess that was just a moment of them showing the confliction in his heart, like the oh,
I
there is
guess.
the redeeming quality. He does value this connection. Ooh.
But it didn't like but you never saw him really like struggle again up until the very end. Like that
Yeah, no,
much.
they didn't highlight like a character arc for him very well.
No. He kind of saved him and you're like, "Oh, I think he swapped sides." And everyone was like chill with it. Like everyone's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess he got away." And then later on, he still looks like he's just pissed off trying to whatever. And then at the end, he finally is like, "Oh, you know what? Let me help you." I was
Yeah.
just like, "Okay, this doesn't really make sense, but sure."
Yeah. Also, like the final moment of the show was so stupid. Like all is said and done, and dude's about to take his own life, right? And then he's just like, we could go live a life. Now we could go find out what our lives are truly like. And he's like, you mean there's another path? Cut to the main character riding a motorcycle alone on the beach side. That's it. That's how
Yeah,
the show ends. They're not even together. You're not even going to give me like a flash of what this character chooses to do instead of taking his own life. It was just like, and it's over now.
yeah,
Like it was so stupid.
yeah. Felt like Promise Neverland season 2.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
no closure. Just at the end, just a slideshow, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Honestly, very similar. I mean,
Yeah,
if you take the high point of season one of Promise Neverland and the where it ends in season two, very similar from the starting point of this season to the end of it for sure.
that's got to be like the biggest like drop off of any anime I've ever seen. Like season 1 of Promise Neverland was so good, and
Yeah,
season 2 was like I couldn't believe what I was watching at all.
yeah. No, I agree. I don't know if there's been a bigger season one to season two drop off of
No,
anything
it
ever.
was insane. Like I One Punch Man was up there for me just in the animation complete drop off, but
Mm.
story wise I still cared for it, but like yeah, the problem is like everything about it. It was super rushed. You could tell nothing made sense, and then they end like chapters worth of content in a slideshow. And it was
No,
crazy.
it's so disappointing because season one felt so deliberate and so intentional and so smart. There was like
Yeah,
so well thought out. Like there
no,
was no corner of the story that you could poke a hole
no.
in, you
I
know?
was I was on the edge of my seat every episode. It fucking brought me back to like Death Note, like a cat and mouse game. Like they're just
Yeah.
constantly trying to outsmart each
Yeah, like
other.
the chess match. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. And then next season, just nothing. It felt like they lost all their wits about them.
If Promise Neverland remained as good as it was, or hopefully had gotten better as the story progressed, it would go down as one of the best new gen anime ever. It,
For
it really
sure,
would.
for sure.
Too bad it was just cut off at the knees. Like I can't even recommend someone to watch it, bro.
No,
Like I can't.
I if I did, I'd be like, watch season 1 and call it a day on the cliffhanger.
And go watch a YouTube video about how the manga went.
Yeah, or yeah, from there read it. I don't know if the manga was that much better, but I heard it was, but I'd imagine it was. Can't be
I
worse.
don't hear people talking about it as like, oh, it has this amazing ending or whatever. But no, it definitely doesn't like fall off. I think it remains as good as it was, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, just hearing from some people that did watch it, they said like a lot of like one episode parts were like multitude of chapters that just like they just kind of skimmed through and missed out a lot of details.
Do we have anything else on Ninja Kamui? I mean, I feel like there's probably some stuff I'm forgetting, but I don't think in the long run it will matter. Oh, I hated the theme song.
Yeah, same. I didn't like any of the music that played during it. It was like I don't know, it felt like copyright free music that they were just kind of slapping on top of it.
It felt like 2008, like emo punk.
And like I like that. I'm all for that, but that wasn't hitting.
Again, it kind of the theme song is almost like a direct representation of the quality of the show. It's like you see the intention and like there's a clear direction that it's going with, but whoever the creators were for this just did not do it.
Yeah, no, it was so whatever. But beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Ninja Kamui, big disappointment. I think all we have left is Blood of Zeus.
Let's get into it.
Right on. I believe we feel the same way coming off of season one of Blood of Zeus. That it's one of my favorite animated shows I've seen. You know, the character models. I love the subject matter. I love being on Olympus and playing with Zeus and these characters. But the level of drama of season one. And I went back. Did you rewatch season one, by the way, right before season two?
No, I watched a couple different recaps.
Okay, gotcha.
Just because
I
I
had
wanted
rewatched
to,
it.
I wanted to get it done, before
Right.
we shoot this, so it would have taken
Gotcha.
too long.
I had rewatched season one a couple months ago because I knew season two was on the way, and I loved it even more than I did the first time. And the story is dense; they pack so much into it, and like there's rich emotion back in season one. Like it's such a drama. But anyways, all that being said, we both came into season two with a very high remark for season one. Uh, and going into season two, personally, I was not disappointed. How did you feel about it?
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought that maybe they would give, and like this isn't a knock at the animation at all. I just thought maybe they would give them a little bit more budget because when you compare like Castlevania, like those scenes are like insanely good. They really put some time and effort into those like fight scenes for Castlevania. I thought maybe they would get a little bit of that. But I mean, other than that, the story was great. I liked it. Like you said, I just love the character design of that studio. Like I thought all the characters looked cool. They were all distinguishable. Like I was never like really mixing up like is this Persephone? Is this like Artemis or whatever? Like I knew who was who pretty distinctly, which in a lot of animation, when you have that many characters, like a lot of them kind of like jumble together and you mix them up, and so I think they did very well. And I love Greek mythology as like a whole. Those are always fun stories. So it was hard to mess up for me.
Yeah, no, let's lean into the animation a bit because I have a lot of thoughts on this. I'm obviously you can compare it to Castlevania as the direct comparison, it being the same animation studio and they have the same look. You're right, they do not have the budget that Castlevania gets. Like I do think it looks very good, but it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Even in its better moments, which is when you see Heron calling on like that Zeus lightning power, like
Yeah.
those are the peak moments
Yeah,
for sure.
those are great.
Even them don't hold a candle to a lot of the sequences you get in the average episode of Castlevania, for being honest. Uh, Besides that, though, you touched on it. The character models of each of the gods looks amazing. I love how each of them look. I love how Hera looks. Persephone, they're all beautiful. I love Hades. Hades got a big
Hades
spotlight
looks
role
cool.
in
He
this
looks
season.
like Kratos.
Oh, he is dripped the fuck out, dude. He's got like the long shirt on with the jewelry and the
Yeah.
markings on his face.
No.
He looks amazing. Even Ares, I think Ares looks really cool. And like each of them, their character design not only depicts them super well. So like even if let's say if I brought my fiance to just watch a random episode of season two, having a vague awareness of Greek mythology, you'll be able to point out just on the character models who everyone is.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they update it with like a bit of drip and like freshness. Like they all got that fit on, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
you know they're gods. And also like they're pretty like, if even if someone didn't really know Greek mythology and I was like, okay, this character is, whatever, Hades, god of the underworld, obviously within the realm, like he looks like a human, like he's not like some skeleton, you know what I mean? Like you would picture all his powers and like that's kind of what you would imagine, or like any of the other gods, you list off their powers, kind of their personalities, and you would probably have something close to what they thought or what they drew up. So I think that's good. Like it's not just some weird, crazy, like generic, whatever.
For sure. Okay, so just to provide some structure for how we talk about this, I kind of want to go chronologically. Episode one, I had so much fun with the structure of it. It was retelling the climactic battle sequence from the ending of season one, but from the point of view of Hades' like henchmen, and they're like on like a secret mission to collect the stone, which is the object of everyone's eye this whole season. Everyone wants to get their hands on that stone. Getting introduced to the power set of Hades, not through Hades, but through just his underlings, like was super fun. Like the way that they showed off their abilities, the black arrows, the way that they can poof teleport just like these small distances. I thought it was super effective and like the way that they pulled it off, not only choreography wise, worked really well, but just intellectually, the framing of how they were sneaking around the same sequences that we saw before. I just thought that it worked out really well. I was super engaged and I thought it was super like interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I texted you about it because I was initially so confused. I was like, "Wait, I thought this person was dead. I didn't know that that's what they were doing."
It took me a bit to catch up to it too. Like I thought I was missing something at first.
But that's also because I hadn't watched it recently.
Hmm.
So like
The first season came out 4 years ago, so
yeah, so they like I know they used kind of some of the same like sequences, but there were kind of the smaller ones I didn't really realize up until you kind of replied. And then I noticed, I'm like, oh, okay, I actually remember this happening.
hmm
The way it did. But yeah, that was cool to actually see like what was going on whilst all that was happening, and how
yeah,
Hades was low key plotting for longer than you probably thought.
yeah. Dude, Hades made such an impression this season for someone who was not a character in season one. I mean, we get two lines from him, I think,
Yeah,
in season one. He's a completely non-player. He hits the stage and like it's like he's been here the whole time. I was really endeared towards his backstory, honestly.
yeah. They definitely had you like feeling for him, which I feel like is always like you can always make the villain where like, oh, you're just made to hate him no matter what, like he's just such a despicable person. But I feel like it's even more impressive when you can make me understand the villain and like be like, maybe if I was in his shoes I would do the same exact thing. So
It's completely unfair what they're doing to him. It
yeah,
doesn't make any sense. Like it seems like he would be fine with with his circumstances if they just let his wife stay living with him. Like it's the fact that they're just like forcing her to leave 6 months out of the year, years later. It's like just throw him a bone, man. Like
yeah,
come on, what are we doing? He seems pretty chill if they just let him hang out with his wife
yeah,
and mother of
no,
his kids.
yeah, and I don't understand. And also like um what is it during those 6 months, that's why there's winter and famine and stuff like that, is because she's gone. uh it just seems like, why the fuck is she not there permanently? Like
You guys are mad petty for this one,
yeah,
bro.
like there's no reason why you couldn't visit her.
Yeah,
Like you have all the means to go there. I don't know, it seemed
yeah, no.
insane.
Yeah. But in episode, I think it's in episode two that you see like the kids crying as she's like trying to leave and everything. That definitely had me very compelled for him and his journey just off out of the gate.
Yeah.
I was definitely locked in there. How do you feel about Seraphim's journey this season? Do you feel like he's like gotten like a proper kind of redemption arc here?
Yeah, and I mean, like, they really they really showed like him going through every like little bit of emotion as like every new detail revealed themselves. And like,
Hmm.
he's still kind of, this rash, like, uh you know spiteful, revengeful guy, like, even if he knows maybe it's not probably the best thing to do, he's gonna go down and uh get his, you know what I mean? Like go.
Yeah.
um but yeah, it was nice to see him at the end. um I mean, even at the end he was still vengeful. He's like, no, fucking me and you, fuck these gods.
Hmm.
um but yeah, I really liked his character more so than I did season one.
His character motivation. So I love his redemption story right now. I love the level of complexity and like thought that they give him, and they allow him to honestly, he's given way more attention than Heron in terms of like representing the themes and like deeper intention behind the writing of the story. He's kind of feels more like the main character at this point.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't love about him is so now his character motivation is to do what Hades says. So Hades will allow him to take this water that makes you forget all the pain and suffering to give to his ex-girlfriend so she'll forget about him. And so that way she'll be able to rest in peace. I guess that just doesn't feel that compelling to me. I don't know, like that being his motivation, especially when this like lover character, I don't even really remember her from season one, and I watched it 2 times, and they're introducing her or giving a lot more attention to her now. That just didn't really feel that compelling to me. That being said, when he's on screen, I'm compelled by him just existing and just his overall character and you know the level of thought that they gave to him this season. I thought was handled very well.
Yeah, it's funny how I mean I feel like a lot of the times they kind of brushed over the fact that he killed Heron's mom. It almost comes off as like it's not his fault. It's the god's fault that he did that. It's like almost like getting rid of, which I mean to a degree it is, but sometimes they
He still made the choice as Heron screaming "Mom" to stab her in the back. Like he still made that choice.
yeah, there's still like there's a couple. I mean they still like mention it kind of that he's like trying to forgive him and stuff like that, but like there are also moments where it seems like no one's really blaming him for it at all, which is, but I mean that's just such a weird nitpick thing that probably doesn't matter, but it was just funny. Like
I mean, I
sometimes
guess it's okay because he's died, and so now he can like have retribution in a way, like he's gotten his in a way.
speaking of dying, I like the whole judgment thing. That was cool. They see how it's done, and two, like they really try and outweigh everything you've done, and just their measurement of like what they deem as like like one good thing is like all of a sudden 3 of those coins, as opposed to like slaughtering 100 people is like 2. You know what I mean? Like,
No, that was super cool, like super interesting. Just like on like playing with Greek mythology. Like this is a concept I've seen before, but depicted this way I've never seen, and I felt like it was super well realized. It's such an eerie setting. Seeing it for Seraphim and then seeing the difference for Zeus was super interesting. With the twist at the end of the season, I can only assume we're going to see it for Heron next.
yeah, if he dies.
I suppose. I think it's implied that he's dead.
How
I think he'll
many
come back
times
to
have
life.
how many times have you seen them like close their eyes and it goes out, and then like all of a sudden they're
Listen,
back awake and someone saved them?
when he makes that choice, when he stabs him with tears in his eyes, and then this witch god creature comes out to punish everybody for making all these choices,
Gaia.
the emotional weight of that scene definitely implies that he's fully dead in that moment. If they walk it back without him at least going to the underworld and earn his way back into living, I would take that as a knock on the series. I think that would be poor writing to undercut all of the emotions of not only Hades' choice, but the rage that she comes out with. I think I have to assume I trust the show to not make it Uno reverse, at least without him earning it back.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him go through like the underworld and like fight his way back or earn his way back, and whatever means. But yeah, I mean that scene was crazy. You said they were greenlit for season 3 already, right?
So before the season came out, I watched an interview with the creators, and they were in pre-production for season 3. They wrote all of it. They just haven't been technically greenlit, and so they said as long as this season is received well, they should be able to begin production right away. They said that the season 3 should be out only a year after season 2 came out.
Yeah.
They wrote season 2 and 3 together.
Yeah, I forgot you told me that. So in my head, they were going to wrap up the whole thing.
Oh wow!
And I didn't expect that plot twist at the end where he stabs him. I was like, oh, it's kind of over. And then I was like, oh shit. And then like she says the name of who should not be said or whatever. And then I was like, oh fuck, this is crazy. And then I went to go check the time, and I'm like, oh, this is over. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm really glad there's another season, and I hope it comes out soon. I hope that. I mean, I can't imagine they won't get greenlit. It was not.
It has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's being season 2 does. It's being received well, so I think it'll get greenlit.
That's the best news I've heard all week.
One, I don't know if this is a critique. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a critique. I guess hopefully it does get greenlit because this season it doesn't stand as a season on its own. It's kind of like Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse. That like it's a great movie. This is a great season, but it's a setup season, and that's a setup movie. It doesn't stand on its own because it's an incomplete story the way that they end the season. But they did do a lot of the nitty gritty work of like getting Seraphim and Heron to these other places narratively. Like this season did a lot of the legwork of like driving a lot of plot for characters, so that way season 3 can be even greater, which I think it will be.
When are they gonna like? I'm surprised they haven't played into like Heron and the Amazonian chick, like romance.
Yeah,
like, I thought there
was
would be
just
some
gonna get
kind
into
of romance there, but it doesn't. They're not really having any like moments, I guess. So maybe there is no romance there. Maybe just. I mean, he's got a lot on his plate.
I think it's implied because, well, at least from her point of view, I literally wrote down the moments where it could be read as romance. She's talking him down after a physical explosion, and she's like, "I thought I lost you there for a second. Okay, I lost you, even though the black guy was right there and everything." And then she always hops on the back of his winged horse, even though the black guy's available as well. So she's snuggling up on him. We don't really, and then there's the moment in episode 2 where he wakes up in Olympus and she's sleeping there. He checks on her door first and then has a lingering moment before he goes to the window. I mean, it's not much, and I want more as well, but I am assuming that's where they're going with it.
Fair.
That being said, she remains to be an awesome character in her physical feats. I mean, she like really is a standout character, even though emotionally she has no journey. Her character is one-dimensional. She's just trying to set Heron in the right place, but her action sequences, I mean, she's such a fun character to watch do cool things.
Yeah, she doesn't have, like, too much motivation other than, like, following Heron, but she is very useful in, like, calming him down and, like, setting him straight when he is just, like, he wasn't going to go save that town. And then she was like, I thought I would help you get this sword because I knew you were a good man, like you would make good choices. And then he's like, oh, you're right. And then like he went down there and
she's Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender, talking him out of the Avatar state without Katara's personal journey. I think that the one thing the show handles the worst, and again, this is honestly my only other critique, is the human characters. I mean, the way they wrote off the one, so I don't even know their names. They were the slaves with hair on, the white guy and the black guy. Super cool characters visually, but they have nothing to do this season. And so much so that they just write him off. I wonder if he's going to be relevant. It seems almost like they're trying to set up like a spin-off because they imply that they have something to do, but we don't have any idea what that is. And it's hard for me to see that coming back and being relevant. So I wonder if they're like setting up a slight spin-off perhaps, but
he might like come back, like pop up out of nowhere with like some crazy weapon or something like that, just like see, this is what we had to do, and then like
we'll see.
But also I think I wish I remember the black character's name. Correct me if I'm remembering wrong, but he did mention like other gods that he maybe follows or believes in.
He has like he just believes in the gods, I guess.
Like the Greek gods, or just like different gods in general.
I think he believes in that the gods are divine, and that he believes in the grand. I don't know.
Because
I don't know. They don't do enough to identify what that is. They loosely touch on it, but if to give this character a better emotional journey, if the season was 10 episodes instead of 8, maybe you could make him an actual character and actually see what his motivation is and how it clashes with, the flawed nature of these gods.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, if he was mentioning other gods, I wonder like how that. I was wondering how like other. Like if all like every culture's gods existed in the same time, like like they just know that they own a certain part of it, or like do they ever clash, or like I don't know.
Yeah, that could be an interesting detail. That could be.
But it just
But
seems
yeah,
like giants are just OP and the main threat always.
yeah, yeah. I just felt like those characters like were really flat. Even the Amazonian one, like she was given the most to do of any of the human characters, but again, she was pretty flat. I even feel like Heron isn't that compelling of a character. I like him as the hero. And like this season, he's really just dealing with like being moody about all the loss that he's experienced, but like still having to deal with this like expectation of being like morally just. That's a bit of a character arc, and I kind of felt it this way in season one too. Is that he's the least interesting character of all the characters that are around. That's why I actually hope that he goes to the underworld and has to like go through some trials and tribulations before he gets back, because I think he almost needs that to be a more interesting character in his own right. Like his position is an interesting one, but him as a character doesn't feel that interesting. This season he was just very moody.
Yeah, and I guess they were talking about how like they cut his thread and you can't change that. Like he's definitely gonna die soon, so they probably will.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh, I forgot
guess
about that.
he's
Yeah.
also like it's also like it's not even like he's getting a lot of choices. It's almost like you just kind of have to do this, dude. Like you don't, and
Yeah.
like I like how like you see him dealing with it, and like they're like, all right, well, I guess I have to do this. And meanwhile, he's like battling all these demons in himself, and like just shit keeps hitting the fan nonstop, and like he just has to keep it pushing.
Yeah, now that you mention it, Heron never makes like a decision.
No.
He's the opposite of Seraphim. Seraphim, like he Hades like wants to like force him to make certain decisions and whatnot, but he like despite all the circumstances around him, Seraphim still like forces himself to have his own will amongst all of that. Heron, however, really just like even from season one, it's just things happen and he has to play the next part of the role. Like he there's never really a choice for him. It's just the obvious path forward.
Yeah, I think it's probably like cuz it's a thing on like denying your fate, because like obviously when he tried to do that, they
Mm,
brought it up like he threw away the sword, and if
right.
he had the sword, he could have saved his mother and like all this other stuff, but like since he tried to disregard his fate, uh you know shitty stuff happened, and he ended up still having to do it. Like you might as well try, you can't change fate to a degree, I guess is what their theme is saying. Like that's the theme
Pretty
here.
bleak.
Yeah. It's pretty sad.
That sword is still awesome though.
No,
I
it's
love seeing
sick.
that sword on screen.
No, any of his moments where he's using his powers are awesome.
Yeah, I will say they really delivered in like because season one, I think you see him like channel a little electricity and then you see him do it in the final climax. That's it. Season two, he has a field day with it. It's like every episode we're treated to some
No,
kind of
and they
blast.
make you feel like you can see he's like really strong in those moments, and like definitely he
Hmm.
gets a little carried away every time, just because like he said, it's a lot of power, and it's easy to like you go from fearful to fearless, and they can become like blinding to a degree.
Yeah. No, his power set was so well realized. Like that, they definitely did a great job with that. Another thing I want to praise about the show, and what I think makes it like so resonant, is its writing. This is like a telenovela. This show is so dramatic. It's like one big family, and everyone is just being so dramatic all the time and so emotional and doing all this and that. But the writing is so consistently strong. Like when he says that sentence that you were just talking about, when he talks about how how power corrupts essentially, how he went from fearless to fearful to fearless, and how that must be the experience of his brother Seraphim. When he's outlining all of that, that's just one example of the many monologues in the season that feel so emotionally poignant. Um, Stuff that otherwise would be like left just as subtext that I wouldn't necessarily pick up on. I feel like I understood and like resonated with every emotional beat they tried to bring home in the writing of the show. All the dialogue feels intentional and it doesn't feel wasted.
Yeah, and like it's yeah, like you said, it's intentional, it's meaningful, it helps you kind of understand everyone. Um, big thing they really were trying to drive home was that like the gods are, flawed, and it's because of all their power and all that stuff, and they're all conspiring against each other. The one thing they do respect is power. Everything else they don't care. They're all spiteful and stuff like that. Like they don't forgive. But yeah, I mean, everything they did was well. I enjoyed it.
I'm excited. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of Poseidon yet, who like otherwise is like the most popular like Greek mythology character in recent years,
Yeah.
He had a cool moment when he showed up at the end, like just decimating everyone with the ocean. But I'm hoping that much like how Hades had a bigger role to play in season 2, I hope that we get a lot more of Poseidon because from what we see, it seems like he's pretty much the next strongest person around other than Zeus's power. So
Yeah, he was pretty like missing this whole season, aside from like him kind of explaining, like backing up Hera when she was trying to defend him at the trial, and then like at the end when he pulled up, he had this big ass wave, and then he didn't really see him again after that. Like he just kind of pulled up to like get the thing loose again.
Yeah, that's true. I think I would actually respect the show if they're choosing just to give less Poseidon and just focus more on these other gods that haven't been depicted in modern culture, let's say in the last 20 years. Because we get so much Poseidon, like Percy Jackson, Poseidon's Kid, whatever. We get a lot of Poseidon in culture. But it's funny because they're highlighting the other gods so much that even though Poseidon's the god that I'm most familiar with in terms of Greek mythology, I keep forgetting that he's even a player.
Yeah,
like
same.
the whole beach sequence, this whole war, I'm like, oh, I'm like, everybody's here, and then Poseidon rolls up, and I'm like, oh, everybody's here. Like I completely forgot that he was even a player.
Yeah.
Every time he shows up, honestly, I forget that he's relevant until he shows up, and I'm like, oh, how do we not have Poseidon's point of view on this problem yet?
Yeah.
Even just seeing, like, I want to see what it's like. I'm assuming there's a whole kingdom down there, right? Like,
Yeah.
One would assume there's a whole
imagine.
world to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure he'll have his moment. I mean, Zeus is out of the picture. I mean, I can't imagine anyone else would really have some sort of like equal power, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they do with Ares a little bit more. He was an interesting character in the first half of the season. Second half, he wasn't too relevant other than just kind of showing up and being physically antagonizing. But I loved the beef between him and Heron when they were doing like the games. That's another thing. If this was a 10-episode season, I think we would have gotten like more of like that kind of contest and got to have more fun with that before it got interrupted. Because I was so interested, like I was ready to have so much fun, but it kind of blinked within like half an episode of them doing some arrows and some fighting,
Yeah, and like that moment,
tournament arc.
Yeah, that moment really like showed like they're fucking massive. Like I'm sure Heron's big as far as humans go, but like Ares was like twice his size.
Yeah, I love the scaling of them next to just Heron. Like it's the right amount bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was any bigger, it would feel like not even like relevant for them to fight. But they're like just the amount right size bigger for it to be like an imposing force.
Yeah.
And it's satisfying to see him overcome it.
Yeah, they're like 12 feet tall.
Aaron's just like a short king around these guys.
Yeah.
Bro. I love it.
But like you never really notice up until like he's squaring up with one of them or something.
Yeah. It's fun. I like that. I like that, like the scaling of just physical sides from the gods to humans. I also like whenever they're in Olympus and they like kind of look down on the earth from the clouds. I don't know why, but I just in terms of like world building of Greek mythology and how it's brought to life in this animated series, I think it's done really well. I just like that kind of point of view shift whenever they do choose to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Greek mythology's always been cool. There's so many built-in stories into it. So much shit going on, so much betrayal, so much like scheming. You're always good for a story.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna ask you like, what are your predictions for season 3? I can't think of any.
I have
like,
no idea.
it's at such an interesting point that you can't even begin to theorize where they're gonna move with the plot, right?
Yeah, I have no fucking idea at all.
Like, I guess she's gonna resurrect he who should not be spoken, and then he's gonna wreak havoc, and you're gonna see a power struggle between the remaining members of Olympus until Heron's resurrected. And they also dropped this bit of prophecy that either Seraphim or Heron will be the one to save everyone. Like one of the two of them is prophesized. To me, that just means it's going to be Seraphim. I think they're going to, obviously, it looks like it's going to be Heron. He's bestowed the power and all that good stuff. But I think at the end of the day, when it really counts, Seraphim's going to make another gracious sacrifice that protects humanity and puts it all away. Because that's just the interesting thing to do, right? If it's going to be one of the two of them, it's not going to be the one who's obviously typecasted as the hero.
Yeah, I mean, we might not even see that much Heron this next season. It could just be all Seraphim.
Dude, just that's the end of Aaron? No, that would be crazy. We got to see that.
Seraphim maybe goes down and like to the underworld and saves him because I mean he's technically dead too. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, he still has to get judged, and I can't imagine he gets judged for any like he hasn't really done anything bad.
I guess we could see the like where do they go when they don't go to hell? Like they haven't implied that yet.
Yeah, like I'm not sure. And I think they made a point to
see him struggle. Maybe we'll see him struggle with the choice of either staying in a paradise that he's earned for actually living like a just life, and like having to choose to leave to go protect the people again. He has to choose like to put himself back in the throes, and they'll be like, well, if you leave, you can never come back or something. And he has to, once again, sacrifice his own happiness for everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways they can go with it. It just kind of depends, right?
For sure.
Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I love Blood of Zeus. Let's check back in a year from now. Hopefully, we get that season 3.
Hopefully, we'll have like 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be good. By the time Blood of Zeus season 3 comes out, we'll have 1 million subscribers. We only need 1 million more from now.
Like 1,900,000, 980 maybe.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
Here we go.
We have probably not a lot in like one episode.
I couldn't do that mental math, so I skipped it.
I probably butchered it. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got.
Yeah. All right. That's another episode in the books. Thank you for watching, all 5 of you. Just kidding. We got a lot more than that. This has been another episode of Dsensitized with Darius and Dan Cast. All right. That's it for today.
All right. Bye.
Booga wooga wooga.